What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about the uneven year that 2022 was for video games. And this is something I casually kind of bring up, right, in videos. And I thought, weekend video, something a little bit different. Let's go through the Wikipedia page. This is one of my best friends in life. More than just friends you can talk to. You don't even have to talk to this one. And I like to look through every month, and they just give the dates. Game Informer actually does a really good one as well. I would put Wikipedia honestly at number 1 and Game Informer as number 2 in terms of just type in 2022 in video games and it shows you all the information you need to know. But let's go through it. This is not like a ranking video. Those kind of things actually are coming as December goes on my main channel. I got some big plans coming, but let's look at when games came out and some of these big breaks of time that we had in between these gigantic waves that we also had in 2022. Okay, so just forgive how dark it is. For whatever reason, it's a lot darker than like my screen and my face. Just ignore the brightness thing there. I can't figure it out. Let's go through this. January, from my memory, did not have much of anything, and looking through it right now, doing a fast little drive-by, I honestly can't see anything that super stands out. Obviously at the end of the month with Uncharted. Then February did hit big, right? February was a big month with Life is Strange Remastered, which I like to always kind of throw out. But then you have the big ones. You had the Dying Lights, you had Sifu's, this is also Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West, right? Plus other stuff, but those were really the big ones. And once you get into March, really all of that stuff, you see Elden Ring on the 25th of February, and then when you get into March, like Babylon's Fall was kind of funny, right, because of how little people actually played it. You had Ghostwire Tokyo was in March, Gran Turismo, but overall, Triangle Strategy, I guess, was somewhat big. You started to have games, I think, were a lot more specific towards each individual person, just less games just in general, I would say, coming out. Even in February, you could argue it was just those big ones: Dying Light, Elden Ring, Horizon, and Sifu. And those are 4 pretty big ones, and they were, I believe, on 4 different weeks. So you did get it was kind of spaced out, but still 4, compared to right now, when we're getting like 10 games coming out in like a 10-day stretch, not really that comparable. Tiny Tina's Wonderland, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So it seems like what you had here was kind of a gap from February till the end of March, which did have stuff. Now, to my knowledge, April really only had Lego Star Wars. That was the big one that I remember, covering and all that stuff. I mean, I guess MLB The Show. But you notice the date, April 5th, right? For the rest of it, there really was nothing. I think during this time of April, and I want to keep going down, I'm trying to look at each individual one, April through May had Trek to Yami, which very small, very few people I feel like actually played that game. The only other one that was in May was Evil Dead. That was really the big one. So really you look at April and May, and they had one game on each. Now again, this is a personal kind of preference video. This is kind of what I played. Sniper Elite, like that was a game that existed in May. So then when you reach June, in my opinion, it's kind of just The Quarry. I mean, I was looking through this a little bit before, I talked over it, and I don't know, like TMNT, that was definitely one, so maybe that one as well. So The Quarry, TMNT, like Resident Evil, like this was just bringing it to the next gen. So honestly, I think that's kind of why, and this is starting to build the topic that this year was very, very uneven, right? Because you had so much in February. March was kind of uneven in general, but then April, May, June, you really didn't have much of like substance. Yes, big games, I guess, like Lego Star Wars was a big game. I think it sold the most in like the franchise history, but besides one here, one there, Evil Dead, very hit or miss from people that were actually playing it, like in terms of it was a good game, but who actually did play it and who's still playing it. The Quarry was popular, I suppose, when it came out. Now, July, of course, there really is never anything really in July. July is overall a pretty dead month every single year, except for 2020, in which Ghost of Tsushima came out in July. But for the most part, like Digimon Survive, and that was a big thing. What Remains of Edith Finch is one of my favorite games of all time, but it was just a next-gen update. And really, August, same things. August had 2 Point Campus early in the month, but then you really have to scroll down. Oh, by the way, June also had Mario Strikers. There was that. I think Switch Sports was in April. So you have some Nintendo, like kind of oddball things being thrown here and there, which both of them are actually rather good games. But you go through August, really not much until you get to the end. And then you have like games like Soul Hackers and Destroy All Humans. And then we're in where we're at now. September, Last of Us Part 1. September, I would say, overall started pretty quick with Splatoon 3, then like the week afterwards, right? But as you go through September, kind of drops off, not too much going on there, and then you get into October, and then the rest kind of is history, because from October to now, it is very, very packed. So has this been like the worst year of gaming of all time? No. And actually, I always try to hold that, when people ask me or people say like, oh, this year had like one good game or had no games, that I'm into. That's why I don't like to say this year has been a bad year, more like this year has been uneven year, because you have the big, thing that was February, and then you have the big thing that's now from October to now of Gotham Knights and God of War and Call of Duty and Plague Tale, and there's just so many, Marvel's Midnight Suns and Callisto Protocol by the time you guys are watching this, right? There was a lot that came out in like a 2-month stretch, but you look at all the other months, now again, there are some things planted here and there. September was kind of big towards the beginning. You look at even like the more dead months of March, April, May, really from March through August, you could argue that entire period was rather dead. Depends on the kind of person you are, right? Ghostwire was there, Kirby was there, Mario, Mario Soccer, Switch Sports, like you have some Nintendo stuff kind of thrown in there here and there. And then you also have games like Lego Star Wars and The Quarry. But again, very pretty specific, I would say, each of those games. You got to be a kind of specific thing. Now, you could argue, isn't every game for a specific kind of person? Yeah, I would give it to you, but that's why, again, I don't think bad, because throughout the year, like Tiny Tina was fine, Kirby was fine, The Quarry was fine. Like, there's a lot of games that were over and fine, as in like solid. They were solid experiences, but I just don't think this year had, outside of Elden Ring and now God of War, so the entire February and the entirety of now. When's the last time we had a year like that? 2020, I feel like, was kind of like that, where we had some really, really big pockets of time with games. I guess how you would maybe like compare this year to past years is, the biggest times of the year, how do they compare? They actually compare probably pretty well, right? Because Elden Ring, in terms of its sales, and even just the entire month of February, Dying Light sold really, really well as well. That month was fantastic, I'm sure, from everything. Revenue, these big games that sell really well. And then even you look at right now, and these games are doing extremely well. And I think they could probably compare to some of the bigger moments in other years. Now, you'll have to see, like, next year, how does Jedi Survivor, how does the second Legend of Zelda, how do these games, how do they do? And then during the, weaker parts of the year, what happens, right? What are those weaker parts? Do you have a Lego Star Wars comparable? Do you have a Kirby or Tiny Tina comparable? And I feel like, hopefully, next year, there won't be so much of a dead time where May comes and goes and you had like one game, or April comes and goes and you have like one game. Again, depending on the player, of course, but I would say actually I'm probably more like diverse in terms of the games that I play. I think I play a lot more games than most people on the planet. I would argue, not, there's a lot of people on the planet. So when I say that, am I in like the 95th percentile? I feel like I kind of am. I feel like I'm up there. But there's also people that only play, a couple games a year. So for those people, and I do see those people often, in terms of Hogwarts is the only game, or Call of Duty is the only game, or even Gotham Knights is the only game. These people, they go through the year and it's only just one game for them, right? So I'd say for more of our die-hard people that play like all of these games that come out every year, it was a pretty solid year overall, but it definitely wasn't consistent. It was two big moments of time, and the rest really felt, not great. And hopefully next year kind of fixes that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I'll see you all on the next one.